Here we are, Surf Expo 2026, January, and I have the extreme pleasure of talking to one of the most prolific East Coast media writer, supporter of the East Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Pruett.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And Matt, I always like to start my interview off with how old were you, where were you when you started surfing?
Honestly, I surfed young when my stepdad came in the picture. 10 or 11, but I didn't get really serious about it. I didn't live at the beach. I grew up in Bayside, which is Norfolk adjacent part of Virginia Beach, the hood, so to speak. Then I didn't get serious about it until my mom and stepfather dropped me off on the Outer Banks. I was about 18. And so I surfed a little when I was a kid, but I didn't become completely infatuated with it until I was in that environment. Until I was in real waves with seeing real surfers. I mean, it was profoundly inspiring being making friends and then being friends with guys like Jesse Hines, Billy Hume, Jeff Myers, Noah Snyder, Matt Beecham, Barry Price, and it was cutting edge early 90s stuff.
Yeah,
water and fins flying everywhere and deep barrel rides, and I was like, holy shit, this is surfing,
So you're 19, 20 at this point?
Yeah. So kind of late,
Okay.
I was never a Grom.
Never a Grom. And what was your first experience in writing about surfing?
I wrote a college essay. I went off and on to UNCW, had a hard time paying for it, so I'd go for a year and then go back to the Outer Banks for 2 years and go for another year. And I wrote couple college essays about my friends, about Jesse Hines breaking his leg, or Billy Hume, having a rager or something. I don't know. But and Jesse Fernandez. Read a couple of my college essays because I always wondered if I could, fit in that world. Because magazines, I devoured them shits,
cover to cover.
Steve Hawk, Derek Hine, Matt Warshaw. I was wondering if I could fit in that world. But, I always felt kind of like, an imposter in that because it was so foreign to anything I knew. Jesse Fernandez was kind enough to read a few of my college essays, and then he told me I had talent, and he hooked me up with Matt Walker and Mez. Said, you need to talk to these guys. And Matt Walker actually, because we had friends in common, he actually hit me up and offered me an assignment. So he gave me an assignment. I think it was a breast cancer benefit in Montauk or something. And it was just kind of like a test run. And that turned into a few more assignments, an internship, a job, career, and off to the races. I never had to fill out a resume until just this year. At 51 years old. This is the first time I had to apply for a job. I didn't even know what's a CV? Yeah, it's a resume. I'm like, fuck,
How was it tough, or was it fun working for Dick and Tom?
It was probably the most revelatory experience of my life. It was fun. It was exciting. I knew I belonged in that world. I mean, I loved making a magazine, man. I loved it. I loved the, because we were a tight operation, 8, 9 people at most, and so you're there with between, the graphic designers and the photo editors, and, having the slideshows and the editorial meetings, just, discussing what we were going to present in each issue, why it was important, why it could wait, and really much staying on top of, what was going on, what we had done the last issue or the last year. I mean, I loved everything about it, and I was good at it. It was, I'm not good at a lot of things. I never really considered myself multi-talented, but when I got into that world, I was like, this is all I want to do, So I was
found
really
your
lucky.
path.
I found my path, and it took me, pretty good ways until this year, So, but you can't keep the robots out, man.
Well, it's tough with the era of no magazines.
Right.
There's online stuff, and but that's fleeting as well,
Yeah.
and there's so many
Well,
involved.
and you probably know too that you can't spend your life, pining for what once was.
Yeah.
We've got to evolve
Move on.
and move on. And but yeah, I think maybe I did my best work at Surfline and for freelancing for a few of the other mags, Surfer, Transworld, Water, Stab. But in terms of actually being in the editorial environment and surf journalism, ESM was actually like the highlight. I thought it was, when I first got into it, I thought it was going to be the stepping stone to going to work for Surfer Magazine and following the path of my idols. But it wasn't too long in there where I really started believing their bullshit. And I got happy being the big fish in the small pond, and I never really wanted to move out to California. I tried, it just wasn't for me. I believed in where I lived and who I represented, and I just knew that this is the way to do it. It felt more punk rock, it was super DIY, and just when you work for guys like Mez and Dugan, and they're your friends too, and their friends become your friends, they're so important to me. The friendships, but also like what they recognize, this little minuscule talent that I had, and helped me turn it into a career. I didn't have a lot of strong male role models in my life. So when Matt Walker, I had to have the academic background from college to know what I was doing, the fundamentals, but Matt was really able to chisel that and explain why we were doing the kind of coverage we were, why it was important, why cooperation was key with the photo editors and the graphic designers and the advertisers too.
Right.
Matt was, man, I can't say enough about that guy. Hunter, he's the smartest person I know.
I know.
He's
Let's hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on. I want to get this on camera.
Okay.
I love Matt.
Yeah.
Matty boy. He is so fucking smart.
So
He is so
smartest guy I
fast
know.
on his feet.
Yeah.
It's just stunning. So we'll circle back. Tell me about the influence of Matt Walker on what you have done.
It was huge. I mean, we had a couple friends in common that brought us together, and he came to me actually, offered me work, and I had never done anything like that. So that was like 1997. He gave me a test run turned into assignment turned into an internship, and I had the academic clinical writing skills from college and stuff, but it needed to be sexied up, and Matt taught me how a magazine works, and he was just such a, even today, I mean, he still gives me work to today. But like I said, I didn't have a lot of positive male role models in my life, and between Mez as a life mentor and Matt as a writing mentor, I mean, it was just like, I got dropped into this cauldron of these legends who, didn't make me feel out of place. I always felt out of place in California, whether I was surfing or going into the Surfer Magazine office with my little fucking portfolio, and there was just something out there that just didn't sit right with me. It's in terms of like being in their environment, it was, but I was never made to feel that way in the ESM offices. It was almost like from day one, it was like, you're home now. This is what you were meant to be doing. And, but Walker, man, yeah, it's hard because in a lot of ways I've just kind of trailed him. Even when he was working out west with surfing, he was giving me more work than all the other California mags put together. And even today, at Milepost Magazine, I have a column with him. I mean, I'm going to leave here and go proof his magazine, like right when I get back home. The man has been, God, beyond words, instrumental and in my life path, and also in my, giving myself a break. I tend to be kind of hard on myself, And Matt's always kind of the guy being like, yo, you can write circles around those motherfuckers, you know what I mean? And then you start to believe it, and then you realize, yeah, man, you know, these guys are cooler, they rip harder, but they can't write like me. You know, Matt Walker said so. You know, fuck 'em. So having guys like that in your corner and really believe in you, you know, when you're, you know, young and impressionable and kind of like restless, you know, not really comfortable in your own skin. You know, but after doing that internship with the magazine, I mean, I remember calling my mom being like, I know what I want to do now. And fuck, I got to do it for 27 years, you know. And,
Wow.
And until just this year. So.
And the focus being the East Coast. How do you feel about that?
That's, I mean, I've done international stuff and, you know, covered CTs and, you know, shadowed Hawaiians and done all kinds of stuff. But the East Coast was always my bread and butter. And, you know, I think, you know, Surfline deserves a lot of credit, Dave Gilovich and Marcus Sanders, because they were the only ones at the time that really took the East Coast seriously enough to lock me down. And that was always kind of like, I felt like it was just a lot easier focusing on this unsung, subterranean, passionate sect of surfing society that everybody wasn't writing about. And then I could ignore whatever John Florence was doing or Gabby Medina was doing or, you know, everything else, the industry stuff, the wave pools, all of it. If I could just focus on the East Coast, and I could put as much work into exposing a, you know, a ripper from New Hampshire as they would the CT. And it just felt more punk rock. You know, it appealed to my punk sensibilities of, you know, the DIY. We've got our little scene here. We don't care about the big labels. In fact, you know, we're kind of, you know, bucking.
You're rebels.
We're rebels, man, and you know, and misfits, and it was just a very raw time. I mean, you know, without citing certain experiences, it just. Somewhere along the line, I thought I was gonna, you know, bounce to a bigger magazine, and then I just started to feel. Once I became editor of ESM, I was just feeling this great responsibility, but also this privilege, you know, that I cared. I was like, I got to go see New England, not I got to go to Chopu. What am I gonna do at Chopu, right? You know what I mean? But and maybe I'm a lot better. I think I'm a lot better with the one-on-one, the intimacy, than I am in like this big industry fanfare spectacle kind of thing. It just wasn't my style, you know. You know, but you send me to stay with, you know, Peter Mendia for a week and him showing me around his life, and that's like as you know, as big of an assignment as anything I could do, because I could really. Another thing too, when it came to the East Coast stuff, you know, nobody edited me hard. You know, I was free to write what I wanted, how I wanted, tell the stories I wanted, and I didn't have to, like, you know, follow the algorithm. So the East Coast has always been where my heart is. I've had lots of opportunities to move out west. I turned every single one of them down. Probably hurt me in terms of industry networking. Yeah. But I never thought moving out there would necessarily be a good thing for my writing. You know what I mean?
But the fact, I like what you said about you weren't edited very much.
No, that's in Walker.
That bespeaks your talent.
Well, I don't know.
And
maybe.
You know, you can be humble about it, but that literally, I write, I can edit stuff.
Excellent writing.
And I know,
writing too, man.
I know that not being edited is a talent.
Yeah.
That you do have. And writing about the East Coast, this guy does it. You know, he worked for Tom, Chick, and Matty, and now we got Matt #2. Yeah. So what a privilege it is to welcome you into the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame.
Thanks, man.
And just tell me and tell our audience what does that mean to you?
I mean, I'm 51 years old. I spent my entire adult life doing this work up until now, you know, and I still surf on a shortboard. I still surf through the winter. I still travel for it, and I think if I hadn't done this work, maybe that passion would have receded a little bit. But this is the hill I die on, and you are the people I write for. And that's all I can say. You know, the Outer Banks, the East Coast, it's it kind of that's where it starts and ends for me. You know, the world got real big, real quick, and real weird. You know, when things went digital, and it made me even want to retreat even more. You know, but we can't pine for those halcyon analog days where we were, you know, laying the mag out and freaking having the slideshows, and we're looking through the Mickey slides, and oh my God, that's gonna be the one, you know. And things change, things move on, and maybe I didn't adapt as, you know, as well as others, but I believed in what I did. I loved where I lived, and I believed in who I represented. So it was always enough for me. The East Coast was always enough for me. I never really wanted to be anywhere else.
And all I have to say about that is Matt Pruett is all East Coast all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Pruett, what a talent.
Thanks, Hunter. I appreciate it, buddy.